The thing that I keep thinking about is Americans' future. They have and are going to have a tremendous debt load. So when we see their stock make a comeback like this, it maybe suggests they have some more time to figure things out. But what kind of solutions, Madhu, do you think they have in order to stay afloat here?
Well, first of all, thanks for having me. This is these are very encouraging numbers that Phil just reported out of the airline industry, but it's they're coming from such a low base. I mean, the recovery will be slow and it will be painful, and I think that it'll. All the CEOs have said it'll take 2 to 3 years at least before we start to see airlines come back to the levels they had in December or even January of this year.
And Phil, I was struck by when we spoke about this earlier, and you said, look, there can't really be consolidation. There's only a couple of major airlines now.
Right.
The path in that direction is not entirely clear. So does that mean there's no chance we get consolidation, or how else are these companies? Are they just going to continue to raise money? I mean, the debt loads become a huge factor, not in everybody's case, but certainly for some like American.
Well, look, you can never say there won't be any consolidation at all. All of the airlines, the major ones, have enough liquidity to make it at least through the end of the year. The real challenging period, Kelly, is going to be the first quarter of next year for a couple of reasons. One, it's the slowest period of the year for the airlines. So that's when your revenue slows down the most. And if your debt load is still fairly high at that point and the return of passengers is still not that great at that point, that's where you will see the stress for some airlines, especially those that have taken on a lot of debt.
It's also striking, Madhu, that American is ramping up its flights more quickly. They're going to fly 55% of their domestic schedule in July, compared with United, which is just going to fly 25% of its domestic schedule. Does that reflect the desperation that American has? And, in general, for the safety standards, are these going to kind of move all in the same way? Should people expect the same flying experience, plane to plane, airline to airline? What do you think the deal is there? And as Phil said, people are still pretty skeptical about getting it back in the skies.
Right. For the first part of your question, American has a large domestic network, and that's through the benefit of its merger several years ago with US Airways, which is primarily a domestic airline. Domestic, as Doug Parker said in his interview earlier today, domestic travel is going to come back faster. And that's to the detriment of carriers like Delta and United, which have large intercontinental networks. So American's better positioned, like Southwest, it's better positioned to take advantage of the trends in the return of travel. As for the cleaning standards, the flying experience is going to vary from carrier to carrier. You have some like JetBlue saying it'll block off middle seats till 4th of July, Delta saying till September 30th, and others saying, it's impossible to block off middle seats, and that trend will just not continue. So I think until there is sort of a national standard from the Department of Transportation or the FAA, I think the flying experience will vary between carriers that are blocking off middle seats and taking sort of more aggressive steps for social distancing and those that are not.